I should have known something was wrong when Claire started closing her laptop every time I walked into the room. After 15 years of marriage, you develop a sixth sense about these things. The way she'd snap it shut, like she was hiding state secrets, then give me that smile, the one that never quite reached her eyes anymore. My name is James Parish, and I run Parish Electric with my brother John. We've been wiring homes and businesses in this Pacific Northwest town for 20 years, building something solid while the tech boom transformed sleepy neighborhoods into overpriced coffee shop districts. I'm the guy who shows up when your power goes out, fixes what's broken, and sends you a fair bill. Simple work, honest living. Claire works in HR at Ashford Design, one of those trendy firms where everyone wears expensive jeans and calls meetings sinks. She'd been there 3 years, climbing the corporate ladder with the determination of someone who'd outgrown our small-town life. Lately, she'd been working late more often, attending client dinners, coming home smelling like wine and expensive cologne that wasn't mine. Our daughters, Emma and Sophie, 15 and 13 respectively, had started giving me those looks, the kind that said they knew something I didn't. Kids pick up on tension faster than adults want to admit. Emma would roll her eyes when Claire made excuses about work, and Sophie had stopped asking Mom to help with homework. "Dad, why is Mom always on her phone during dinner?" Sophie asked one Tuesday evening, stabbing at her meatloaf with teenage indignation. "She's busy with work stuff, sweetheart," I said, watching Claire type furiously at the kitchen counter, her back turned to us. "She never used to be this busy," Emma muttered. That night, I lay in bed listening to Claire shower, her second of the day. She'd started doing that after her client dinners, washing off the evening like she was scrubbing away evidence. I stared at the ceiling, counting the reasons I was probably being paranoid, but the numbers didn't add up right. The next morning, Claire rushed out early for another breakfast meeting. She kissed my cheek with the mechanical precision of someone going through motions, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. "Honey, you forgot your laptop," I called after her. "Oh, I don't need it today," she said without turning around. "Just meetings." The laptop sat on the kitchen counter like an unexploded bomb, a sleek silver MacBook Pro that had become her constant companion, more intimate than our conversations had been in months. She'd left it open, the screen still glowing with her email inbox. I should have walked away, should have respected her privacy, made my coffee, and headed to the job site where we were rewiring the old Morrison house. Instead, I found myself staring at the screen, my coffee growing cold in my hands. The top email was from Julian Ashford, her boss. The subject line made my stomach drop. "Last night was incredible." I set down my coffee cup with trembling hands. This was it, the moment every married person dreads, when suspicion transforms into certainty. I could click away, pretend I never saw it, live in comfortable denial for a few more months or years, or I could face the truth. I clicked. "Claire, I can't stop thinking about you. The way you felt in my arms, the sounds you made. I need you again. Soon. I promise I'll leave Rebecca soon. Just give me a little more time to figure out the logistics. You know how complicated these things are with the kids and the house, but soon, baby. Soon we'll be together properly. I love you. Julian." My hands shook as I scrolled through more messages, months of them, detailed, explicit conversations about hotel rooms, stolen afternoons, and plans for a future that didn't include me. Julian Ashford, married father of 2, promising to leave his wife soon, in message after message. I counted them. 47 times across 6 months he'd used that word. Soon. Like a mantra, a lie he told himself and my wife to justify what they were doing. The replies from Claire were worse. My wife of 15 years, mother of my children, writing things that made me feel sick, talking about how she'd outgrown our marriage, how she deserved better, how Julian understood her ambitions in ways I never could. "I can't wait to start our real life together," she'd written just 3 days ago. This small-town existence is suffocating me. When you get the promotion, we can move to Seattle like we planned. The girls will adjust. They'll understand eventually that their mother needs to be happy. They'd planned out my entire family's future without consulting me. I screenshot everything. Every email, every photo, every detailed plan they'd made to dismantle my life. I saved them to 3 separate drives, time-stamped each file, and organized them by date. 20 years of running a business had taught me the importance of documentation. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "Working late again tonight, don't wait up." I looked at the clock. 9:15 a.m. She was already planning her evening alibi before lunch. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I Googled Julian Ashford's home address. Public records showed a house in the expensive Riverside district, purchased 5 years ago by Julian and Rebecca Ashford. I found Rebecca's LinkedIn profile. A pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital, volunteer at 3 different charities, devoted mother and wife based on her family photos. I dialed the number listed for their home. "Hello?" A woman's voice, warm and unsuspecting. "Is this Rebecca Ashford?" "Yes, who's calling?" "Mrs. Ashford, my name is James Parish. I think we need to talk about your husband and my wife." The silence stretched for 10 seconds. Then, "I'll be right there. What's your address?" Rebecca Ashford arrived 45 minutes later, driving a sensible Honda Civic with car seats in the back. She was smaller than I'd expected from her photos, with kind eyes and the tired look of someone who'd been working night shifts. She wore scrubs with cartoon characters on them. "Show me," she said without preamble. I opened the laptop and stepped back. She read for 20 minutes, her expression growing harder with each message. When she finished, she closed the laptop with deliberate care. "How long have you known?" she asked. "About an hour." I suspected for months. Julian's been different, distracted, working late, business trips that didn't make sense. I found a hotel receipt in his jacket pocket last week. She stood up, straightening her scrubs. "Thank you for calling me." "What are you going to do?" "What I should have done months ago." She paused at the door. "Mr. Parish, I'm sorry this happened to both of us, but I'm not sorry we found out." After she left, I sat in my kitchen staring at the evidence of my wife's betrayal. The house felt different now, like walking through a crime scene. Every family photo on the walls looked like a lie, every shared memory tainted by the knowledge that she'd been planning her escape. I called my foreman Carl and told him I wouldn't be on site today. Then I drove to the bank and made some arrangements that would prove very important in the coming days. 3 weeks earlier, after noticing Claire's strange behavior, I'd moved our liquid assets into a trust fund for the girls. Call it paranoia or intuition, but something had told me to protect what we'd built together. Now, those joint accounts would be locked down tight. By noon, I'd forwarded every email to the HR department at Ashford Design with an anonymous complaint about workplace misconduct. By 1 p.m., I'd sent copies to the state licensing board that governed design firms. By 2 p.m., I'd documented everything for my attorney. At 3 p.m., my phone rang. It was Rebecca Ashford. "Julian's been served with divorce papers," she said. His attorney called him at the office. Apparently half the company watched him receive them. That was fast. I've been preparing for this conversation longer than I realized. The papers were ready. I just needed proof. She paused. "There's something else. HR called Julian in for a meeting this afternoon. Someone filed a complaint." "Anonymous tip?" "Anonymous tip." At 4 p.m., Claire texted, "Crisis at work. Julian's dealing with some HR issue. Might be very late tonight." I texted back, "Take your time." At 6 p.m., Emma and Sophie came home from school to find me cooking dinner. Actually cooking, not reheating leftovers or ordering pizza. I'd made their favorite: spaghetti and meatballs from scratch, garlic bread, Caesar salad. "Dad, this is amazing," Sophie said, twirling pasta around her fork. "You should cook more often." "Maybe I will, sweetheart." Emma studied my face. "You seem different today. Happy different." Just a good day at work. At 8 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Rebecca. Julian suspended pending investigation. Effective immediately. At 9 p.m., Claire's key turned in the front door. She walked into the kitchen where I sat with a cup of coffee and her laptop, still open to her email. James, I can explain. No need, I said calmly. I called Rebecca Ashford this morning. Lovely woman. Very understanding about the whole situation. Claire's face went white. You had no right? I had every right. 15 years of marriage gave me that right. 2 daughters gave me that right. 20 years of building a life together gave me that right. She sank into the chair across from me. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I read every email, Claire, every plan you made, every lie you told, every promise he made to leave his wife soon. I closed the laptop. Interesting word choice, by the way. He used it 47 times. I counted. Julian and I, we love each other. Julian's been suspended from his job. Rebecca filed for divorce this morning. The HR investigation starts Monday. I stood up. Congratulations. He's all yours now. What do you mean? I mean, your boyfriend is unemployed, getting divorced, and about to lose everything. Rebecca's taking the house, the kids, probably half his assets. Hope that love keeps you warm in whatever apartment you two can afford on unemployment benefits. Claire stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You can't be serious. Completely serious. Oh, and Claire, I moved our money into the girls' trust 3 weeks ago. Joint accounts are frozen as of this morning. You want to start a new life with Julian? You'll be doing it without my financial support. The next morning, Claire found her suitcases packed and waiting by the front door. I'd folded everything neatly, even included her favorite perfume, the one she'd been wearing to her secret meetings. There was a note on top. He's all yours now. Don't let the door hit you on the way to your new life. James. She stood in our foyer, former foyer, holding the note with shaking hands. The girls will stay with their father in the house they grew up in. You can visit them when you get your life sorted out. I handed her a manila envelope. Divorce papers. I filed yesterday citing documented infidelity. Court dates already set. James, please, we can work this out. Julian and I, it's complicated now. Nothing complicated about it. You chose him over your family. Now you get to live with that choice. She left without another word, dragging her suitcases to her car like a woman walking to her own execution. I watched from the window as she drove away, then turned to find Emma and Sophie standing in the hallway. They'd heard everything. Is Mom really not coming back? Sophie asked. Not to live here, sweetheart. But she's still your mother. That doesn't change. Emma, wise beyond her 15 years, shook her head. She changed it when she chose someone else over us. That afternoon, Rebecca Ashford called with an update. Julian's been fired, she said. The investigation found multiple policy violations. Apparently this wasn't his first workplace relationship. How are you holding up? Better than I expected. It's amazing how liberating the truth can be, even when it hurts. She paused. James, I want you to know, I'm taking everything, the house, the cars, the boat, his retirement accounts. After what he put our children through, what he put both our families through, he deserves exactly what he's getting. Which is? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That evening, I got a text from Claire. Julian and I found a place, small apartment in Riverside. We're going to make this work. I didn't respond. 2 days later, another text. Can we talk? This is harder than we thought it would be. I changed my number. The word soon had finally arrived for both of them, just not the way they'd imagined. The first week without Claire felt like living in a house with half the furniture missing. Not because I missed her, that surprised me, but because her absence revealed how much space her deception had occupied. The girls adapted faster than I expected, filling the quiet with music and laughter that had been missing for months. Emma took charge of Sophie's morning routine with military precision, while Sophie appointed herself head chef for weekend breakfast experiments. We were finding our rhythm as a family of three when my brother John decided to complicate everything. John Parish was everything I wasn't, smooth where I was rough, charming where I was direct, diplomatic where I was honest. 3 years older and infinitely more ambitious, he'd always seen our family electrical business as a stepping stone rather than a destination. He handled the corporate contracts while I managed residential work, a division that had kept us from each other's throats for 2 decades. "Heard about Claire," he said, appearing in my kitchen Thursday morning without knocking. "Tough break, brother." I looked up from packing the girls' lunches. News travels fast in a small town. "Rebecca Ashford's been telling everyone who'll listen about her cheating husband and his home-wrecking girlfriend." John helped himself to coffee from my pot. "Sounds like Claire picked a real winner. Julian Ashford got what he deserved." "Did he, though?" John leaned against my counter with the casual confidence of someone who'd never had his world imploded. "I mean, the guy loses his job, his wife, his house. Seems like overkill for a little workplace romance." Something in his tone made me pause. "A little workplace romance? Come on, James. People have affairs. It happens. Maybe if you'd paid more attention to your wife instead of spending every weekend rewiring someone's basement." "Stop right there." I set down the peanut butter jar harder than necessary. "You're defending adultery?" "I'm saying relationships are complicated. Claire's an attractive, ambitious woman stuck in a small town with a husband who comes home covered in electrical dust. Can you really blame her for wanting something more?" The girls chose that moment to bounce into the kitchen, backpacks slung over shoulders, chattering about some school drama. They hugged me goodbye and waved to their uncle before heading to the bus stop. After they left, I studied John's face. "You seem awfully invested in Claire's motivations." "I'm invested in family harmony. This divorce is going to get messy, and I don't want it affecting the business." "The business will be fine." "Will it?" "Because half our clients know Claire, and word is spreading that you destroyed Julian Ashford's life over a few emails. Some people think you went too far." "Some people?" John shrugged. "I'm just saying, maybe consider couples counseling instead of scorched earth tactics. Claire made a mistake. People forgive mistakes." I stared at my brother, really looked at him, and noticed things I'd missed before. The defensive posture, the rehearsed sympathy, the way he avoided eye contact when he mentioned Claire's name, the expensive watch he couldn't afford on his salary, the new haircut that looked suspiciously like the style Julian Ashford favored. "John, how long have you known Claire was having an affair?" "What? I suspected something might be—" "How long?" He set down his coffee mug. "A few months, maybe longer, I wasn't sure." "And you didn't tell me." "It wasn't my place. Marriage problems are between husband and wife." "But destroying Julian Ashford's career was too harsh?" "That's different. The man has children, James, a family to support." "Had a family. He chose to risk it for my wife." I stepped closer to John. "Just like he chose to risk his job, his reputation, and his future. Actions have consequences." John backed toward the door. "I should get to the office. We have that Morrison job to finish." "John." He stopped with his hand on the doorknob. "Stay away from Claire. Whatever sympathy you think you feel for her situation, keep it to yourself. She made her choice." "Of course. She's your wife, ex-wife. I would never—" "Good." After he left, I sat in my empty kitchen replaying the conversation. John's defense of Claire felt too passionate, too personal. His knowledge of her motivations too detailed. His criticism of my response too rehearsed. I called my foreman, Carl. "Morning, boss. You coming in today?" "Later. Carl, I need you to do something for me. Check the work logs for the past 6 months. Any jobs where John worked alone or took unusual breaks?" "That's oddly specific. You looking for something particular?" "Just curious about scheduling patterns." "Give me an hour. While I waited, I drove past Julian and Claire's new apartment, a rundown complex in the older part of town, the kind of place college students rented when their parents cut off funding. Claire's car sat in the parking lot next to a rusted Toyota that must have been Julian's backup vehicle. The mighty had fallen hard. Carl called back with information that confirmed my growing suspicions. "Boss, you're not going to like this. John's been taking a lot of personal time during work hours. Long lunches, early departures, whole afternoons marked as client meetings with no corresponding invoices." "How long?" 6 months, maybe more. "And James?" "Some of those mysterious client meetings coincided with times when Claire Ashford called the office looking for you." "Claire called the office?" "Multiple times. Always when you were on job sites without cell service. Always seemed to know exactly when you'd be unreachable." The pieces clicked into place like a circuit diagram. Claire hadn't just been having an affair with Julian Ashford. She'd been getting inside information about my schedule, my whereabouts, my business operations, information only John could have provided. I drove to Parish Electric's main office, a converted warehouse where we stored equipment and handled administrative work. John's truck was parked outside, but the building felt too quiet for a Thursday morning. I found him in his office, door closed, speaking in low tones on his cell phone. "Told you this was temporary. Once the divorce is final and things calm down. Yes, I understand you're frustrated, but Claire, listen to me." I opened the door without knocking. John spun around, fumbling to end the call. "James, I didn't hear you come in." "Claire? What?" "You were talking to Claire." John's face cycled through several expressions before settling on sheepish guilt. "She called upset about the apartment situation. I was just trying to what? Console my cheating ex-wife? She's going through a hard time. Julian's not handling the pressure well, and she needs someone to talk to." "She can talk to a therapist." I sat down across from his desk. "John, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I want a direct answer. Are you having an affair with my wife?" "Ex-wife, and no, of course not. She's family." "That's not what I asked." John stood up and walked to his window, hands clasped behind his back in a pose I recognized from childhood. His guilty stance, perfected through years of explaining broken windows and missing cookies. "It's complicated, James." "Uncomplicated." He turned around. "Claire and we've grown close over the past few months. She needed someone to understand what she was going through, the suffocation of small-town life, the feeling that she was meant for something bigger." "How close?" "We've talked, had coffee a few times. She's a remarkable woman who deserves better than—" He caught himself. "Better than what? Better than me?" "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." I leaned back in my chair. "John, how long have you been in love with my wife?" The question hung in the air like smoke from an electrical fire. John's shoulders sagged as 15 years of hidden feelings finally found daylight. "Since the day you brought her home," he said quietly. "You introduced her as your girlfriend, and I thought she was the most beautiful, intelligent, ambitious woman I'd ever met. And you had her." "I had her because I asked her out, because I made an effort, because I treated her like she mattered. You treated her like a small-town housewife. Claire has dreams, aspirations. She wants to travel, experience culture, build something meaningful with her life. She wanted to destroy our family. She wanted to be happy." I stood up slowly. "John, are you sleeping with my ex-wife? It's not like that. Are you sleeping with Claire? We've been together a few times, since she left Julian. She needed comfort, and you moved in on my wife before her affair with Julian even ended. It's not moving in when there are genuine feelings involved." The urge to hit him was overwhelming. My own brother, circling my marriage like a vulture, waiting for his chance to swoop in. Instead, I pulled out my phone and called our mother. "Mom, it's James. I need you to come to the office. We're having a family meeting." Ruth Parish arrived 20 minutes later, wearing her church clothes and the expression of a woman who'd raised 2 boys and could smell trouble from 3 counties away. At 68, she still owned 51% of Parish Electric, a fact John and I had forgotten until moments like this. "What's this about?" she asked, settling into John's chair like a judge taking the bench. "John's been having an affair with Claire." Mom's eyes narrowed. "Is this true?" John shifted uncomfortably. "It's not an affair when she's separated from James. She was married when it started, wasn't she?" Silence. "John Andrew Parish, answer me." "We had feelings for each other. We tried to resist, but you decided to betray your brother instead." Mom's voice carried the disappointment of decades. "How long?" 6 months, maybe longer. While she was sleeping with her boss and planning to leave her family. "Mom, you don't understand. Claire and I have a real connection. We want the same things, share the same values. Apparently you share the same values as adultery and deception." Mom turned to me. "James, what do you need?" "I want John bought out of the business. Full market value for his shares, but I want him gone. Done." "Mom, wait." John stepped forward. "This is my company, too. I've worked here for 20 years. You've worked here for 20 years while planning to steal your brother's wife. That ends today. Claire and I are going to make this work. We're going to build something together, maybe move to Seattle, start fresh." "With what money?" I asked. "Julian's unemployed and getting divorced. Claire has no job and no savings. You're about to be bought out of the only successful business you've ever been part of. What exactly are you going to build?" John's confidence wavered. "We'll figure it out. Love finds a way." "Love?" I laughed. "John, you're the rebound from her rebound. Claire went from a 15-year marriage to a workplace affair to settling for my brother. You're not her great love story. You're her consolation prize." "That's not true." "Prove it. Call her right now. Tell her you just got fired and ask if she still wants to move to Seattle." John pulled out his phone, then hesitated. "Call her, John." He dialed. We could hear Claire's voice through the speaker, bright and cheerful, until John explained the situation. The silence that followed lasted long enough for all of us to understand exactly where his relationship stood in Claire's hierarchy of priorities. "John, I need time to think," Claire finally said. "This changes things." "How does it change things? I thought we were building a future together." "We are, but I need to figure out my options." The call ended. John stared at his phone like it had betrayed him. "Her options," I said. Interesting phrase. Mom stood up. "John, clean out your office. James will have the buyout paperwork ready by Monday." "Mom, please. This is my life's work." "Your life's work was supposed to be family. You chose differently." After they left, I sat alone in John's office, my office now, and called Rebecca Ashford. "How are you holding up?" I asked. "Better every day. Julian's been served with the final papers. He gets supervised visitation with the kids and whatever clothes he can fit in his car." "What about Claire and my brother?" "Your brother?" I explained the situation. Rebecca listened without interrupting. "James, I'm sorry. I thought Julian and Claire were bad enough, but family betrayal cuts deeper." "It does. For what it's worth, Julian's been calling me nonstop, begging for reconciliation. Apparently, unemployment and a studio apartment aren't as romantic as he imagined." "Think you'll take him back?" "Not a chance. But it's interesting how quickly his great love affair lost its appeal when reality set in." That evening, I cooked dinner for the girls and told them about their uncle's departure from the business. I kept the details age-appropriate, but Emma's knowing look suggested she'd figured out more than I'd said. "Uncle John always looked at Mom weird," Sophie observed, "like he was hungry and she was dessert." "Sophie." "What?" "It's true." Emma noticed it too. Emma nodded. "He was always complimenting her clothes and asking about her work. It made me uncomfortable." My daughters had seen what I'd missed. The signs were always there. I'd just been too trusting to recognize them. Later that night, Claire called my new number. Somehow she'd gotten it from John. "James, we need to talk." "No, we don't." "About the girls. About custody arrangements." "Talk to my lawyer." "About John. I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding. You moved from one affair to another without missing a beat. Very efficient." "It's not like that. John and we have something real." "You have something desperate. Two people who destroyed their lives for fantasy relationships, settling for each other because nobody else wants them." "That's cruel." "It's honest. Claire, you went from a 15-year marriage to a workplace affair to my brother in less than 6 months. That's not love. That's panic." "John understands me. John's unemployed. Julian's unemployed. You're unemployed. Understanding doesn't pay rent." The line went quiet for a moment. "The girls miss me." "The girls are adapting. They're stronger than you gave them credit for." "I want to see them." "Then get your life together and call my lawyer to arrange supervised visits." "Supervised?" "You abandoned your children for an affair, then moved in with your lover, then started another affair with my brother. Yes, supervised." I hung up and turned off the phone. The next morning brought news that would change everything again. Rebecca called with an update that made my coffee taste like victory. "Julian's been evicted," she said. "Apparently, he and Claire couldn't make rent on their apartment. The landlord found them living in a studio that was supposed to house one person, with Julian's teenage son visiting on weekends. Where are they now? That's the interesting part. Julian moved back in with his mother. Claire's been staying with your brother. John's apartment? That's what I heard. Cozy little love triangle, all of them broke and bitter." I hung up and smiled for the first time in weeks. The word soon had indeed arrived for all of them, bringing consequences none of them had planned for. The Parish Electric buyout moved faster than John expected. Mom's lawyer had the paperwork ready by Monday morning, and by Wednesday afternoon, John was officially unemployed with a check that wouldn't last 6 months if he was supporting 2 other adults. I knew this because Claire called me Thursday evening, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "James, we need to discuss the custody arrangement. I told you to call my lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer right now. Julian's job search isn't going well, and John's adjusting to his new situation." His new situation being unemployment? He's exploring options. There are opportunities in Seattle, Portland, maybe San Francisco. Opportunities for what? John's an electrician with a high school education and a 20-year gap in his resume. What opportunities is he exploring? Silence stretched across the connection. "Claire, are you living with John?" "Temporarily, until we figure things out." "Where's Julian?" He moved back with his mother. The apartment situation became complicated." I leaned back in my chair, piecing together their pathetic love triangle. "Let me understand this. You left your husband for Julian, who promised to leave his wife. Julian got fired and divorced, couldn't afford the apartment you shared, and moved back to his childhood bedroom. So you moved in with my brother, who just got fired from the family business. Is that accurate?" "You're oversimplifying." "I'm clarifying. 3 adults, 0 steady income, living off John's buyout money while pretending this is some great romance instead of a financial disaster. We're building something together. You're building a house of cards in a windstorm." I switched the phone to my other ear. "Claire, what exactly do you want from me?" "The girls. I want them for weekends." "Supervised visits through the court system." "That's humiliating. So is abandoning your children for a man who couldn't afford to keep you." "Julian and I are working through some challenges." "Julian's living with his mother. You're living with John. What exactly are you working through?" Another long pause. I could picture her in John's cramped apartment, probably sitting on furniture that came from his college dorm room, trying to convince herself this was temporary. "I made mistakes," she said finally. Yes, you did. But I'm still their mother. Being their mother means putting their needs first. You put your desires first, and now you're dealing with the consequences. James, please. I know I hurt you, hurt them, but I'm trying to rebuild my life. Then rebuild it. Get a job, find your own place, prove you can provide stability. Then we'll talk about custody. That could take months. Then you should have thought about that before you started your affair. I hung up and immediately called my sister Connie, who practiced family law in Portland. I need advice about custody arrangements, I told her. How's Claire's living situation? Unstable. She's bouncing between two unemployed men, no permanent address, no income. That makes your case easy. Document everything. Her living arrangements, employment status, the timeline of her affairs. Any judge will see she's not providing a stable environment. She wants weekend visits. She can want all she likes. The court cares about the children's best interests, not the mother's convenience. What about John? What about him? He's been calling the girls, trying to maintain his uncle relationship like nothing happened. Block his number. He made his choice when he started the affair. Actions have consequences. Friday afternoon, John appeared at my house unannounced. I found him sitting on my porch steps when I got home from work, looking like a man who'd aged 5 years in 5 days. We need to talk, he said. No, we don't. About the business, about Claire, about family. I unlocked my front door, but didn't invite him inside. You gave up the right to discuss family when you started sleeping with my wife. Ex-wife. She was married when it started. John followed me into the foyer. James, I know you're angry. I'm not angry. Angry implies I care about your feelings. I'm disappointed, which is worse. We're brothers. We're brothers. Brothers don't steal each other's wives. I didn't steal her. She came to me. After you spent months undermining our marriage, providing her with information about my schedule, validating her complaints about our life together, I turned to face him. John, did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? His shoulders slumped. I never meant for it to happen this way. How did you mean for it to happen? What was your plan? Wait for me to die in an electrical accident? I hoped maybe you two would grow apart naturally and then you'd swoop in to comfort my grieving ex-wife. Very noble. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I walked to the kitchen and started making coffee, a normal domestic routine that felt surreal given the conversation. John, what do you want? I want to fix this. Between us, between the family. There's nothing to fix. You made your choice. Claire and we're having some difficulties. Financial difficulties? Among other things. I poured water into the coffee maker and measured grounds with deliberate precision. Let me guess. The reality of unemployment and shared poverty isn't as romantic as you imagined. Claire's realizing that trading a comfortable middle-class life for love in a studio apartment wasn't her smartest decision. She's adjusting to the circumstances. Is she? Or is she looking for her next option? John didn't answer, which was answer enough. Where's Julian in all this? Living with his mother. Rebecca took everything in the divorce, house, cars, retirement accounts. He's basically starting over at 45 with nothing. Consequences. James, the man, lost everything. His job, his family, his future. Don't you think that's enough punishment for a workplace affair? I think that's what happens when you risk everything for someone else's wife. I started the coffee brewing and turned to face my brother. John, why are you really here? Claire we think maybe you could put in a good word with some of the contractors in town. Help Julian find work. I stared at him for a full 10 seconds. You want me to help the man who was sleeping with my wife find employment? He has children to support. He should have considered that before he started the affair. James. No. I held up my hand. John, I want you to listen very carefully. Julian Ashford destroyed his own life through his choices. Claire destroyed our family through her choices. You destroyed our relationship through your choices. None of that is my responsibility to fix. We're family. You were family. Family doesn't betray family. John sat down at my kitchen table uninvited. What if I told you Claire's having second thoughts about everything? I'd say that's between you and Claire. She's been talking about reconciliation. With you. I poured myself coffee and left John without a cup. Reconciliation? She realizes she made mistakes. The affair with Julian, the way she handled the separation, even the situation with me. She's wondering if there's a way to fix things. There isn't. She still loves you. No, she doesn't. She loves security, and she's realizing she traded it for chaos. I sipped my coffee and studied John's face. Let me ask you something. If Claire came back to me, what would that do to your great romance? John's silence was enlightening. John, Claire isn't having second thoughts about love. She's having second thoughts about consequences. There's a difference. Maybe, but there's no maybe. Claire wants to undo her choices because she doesn't like the results. That's not the same as wanting to fix our marriage. Would you consider it? If she was genuinely sorry? I set down my coffee cup. John, are you asking me to take back my cheating ex-wife so you don't have to support her anymore? That's not, because that's what this sounds like. You thought you wanted Claire until you got her. Now she's your financial responsibility, and unemployment benefits don't cover two adults with expensive tastes. John's face flushed red. It's not about money. Everything's about money when you don't have any. I walked to the kitchen window and looked out at my yard, my neighborhood, my stable life. John, how much of your buyout have you spent already? That's not your concern. How much? We had some unexpected expenses. The apartment deposit, Claire's credit card bills, Julian's child support payments. Julian's child support? You're paying Julian's child support? Temporarily, until he finds work. I turned around slowly. John, you're supporting your girlfriend and her other boyfriend. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. Claire's living with you, Julian's living with his mother, but you're covering his obligations, and all three of you are pretending this is some noble sacrifice instead of a complete disaster. We're helping each other through a difficult transition. You're enabling each other's poor decisions. I refilled my coffee cup. John, what happens when your money runs out? We'll figure something out. Claire will figure something out. She always does. The question is whether it includes you. John stood up abruptly. You're enjoying this? I'm observing it. There's a difference. You destroyed Julian's life out of spite. I exposed Julian's choices. He destroyed his own life. You could have handled it privately, worked things out between adults. Like you handled your feelings for my wife privately? John headed for the door. This isn't over, James. Yes, it is. It's been over since the day you decided my wife was more important than our family. After he left, I called Rebecca Ashford with an update. John's paying Julian's child support? She asked. Apparently. That's interesting. Julian told the court he was unemployed and couldn't afford the payments. If someone else is covering them, that changes his financial picture significantly. How so? If Julian has access to funds through a third party, the court might adjust his support obligations upward. I should mention this to my lawyer. Rebecca, can I ask you something? Do you ever regret exposing the affair? Never. Not for a single moment. Her voice carried absolute certainty. James, I spent months questioning myself, wondering if I was imagining things, making excuses for Julian's behavior. Finding out the truth was devastating, but it was also liberating. How are your kids handling it? Better than I expected. They're angry at their father, but they understand why I couldn't stay married to someone who lied to us every day. Do they ask about Claire? They call her Daddy's girlfriend who ruined our family. Kids have a way of cutting through adult complications to reach the simple truth. That evening, Emma and Sophie helped me cook dinner, a new tradition we'd started since Claire left. Emma was becoming an excellent sous chef, while Sophie specialized in taste testing and commentary. "Dad, Uncle John looked sad when he left today," Sophie observed, stirring the pasta sauce. "People sometimes feel sad when they face consequences for their choices. Is he in trouble? He's learning that actions have results, even when we don't like those results." Emma looked up from chopping vegetables. "Is Mom in trouble too? Your mom is figuring out how to rebuild her life after making some difficult decisions. Will she come back?" I considered my answer carefully. "Your mom chose a different path for her life. That doesn't mean she loves you any less, but it does mean our family looks different now." "I like how our family looks now," Sophie said. "It's quieter, but it's more honest." Emma nodded. "Mom always seemed angry about something, like she was mad at our house, our town, our life. Sometimes people get restless and think change will make them happy. Did change make Mom happy? I don't think Mom knows what makes her happy yet." Later that night, after the girls were asleep, I sat on my back porch with a beer and thought about John's visit. His desperation had been palpable, the kind that comes from realizing you've made a series of catastrophic decisions and can't figure out how to undo them. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Claire. Can we meet tomorrow? I need to discuss something important." I typed back, "Call my lawyer." "It's about the girls." "Call my lawyer. James, please. One conversation." I turned off my phone and finished my beer in peace. Whatever Claire needed to discuss could wait until she was ready to go through proper legal channels. The word soon was taking on new meaning for all of them, and none of them were enjoying its arrival. Saturday morning brought an unexpected visitor, Julian Ashford, standing on my porch like a man attending his own funeral. He'd lost weight since the divorce, and his expensive clothes hung loose on his frame. The confident executive who'd stolen my wife had been replaced by someone who looked like he'd been sleeping in his car. "Mr. Parish, I know this is awkward, but I need to speak with you." "No, you don't. It's about Claire, about the situation we've all found ourselves in." I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. The girls were inside watching cartoons, and I didn't want them overhearing this conversation. "Julian, you have exactly 2 minutes to explain why you're at my house. Claire and our relationship has become complicated since my divorce was finalized." "Complicated how?" "She's been staying with your brother while I sort out my living arrangements, but the three of us sharing space, sharing resources, it's not sustainable." "Not my problem." Julian shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Parish, I know you have every reason to hate me. What Claire and I did was wrong. But we're all adults here, and we need to find a way to move forward that works for everyone." "Works for everyone?" "Julian, you lost your job, your wife, your house, and your girlfriend. I'm not sure anything's working for you right now. That's why I'm here. I want to make things right." "You want to make things right by doing what, exactly?" "I want to ask for your forgiveness and your help." I laughed out loud. "My help? I know you have connections in the construction industry. I'm willing to start over, learn a trade, do whatever it takes to support my children and rebuild my life." "Julian, let me make sure I understand this correctly. You want me to help the man who was sleeping with my wife find employment so he can get back on his feet and potentially win her back from my brother." "It's not about winning Claire back. It's about being a responsible adult." "You should have thought about being a responsible adult before you started the affair." Julian's composure cracked slightly. "Mr. Parish, I made a mistake. A terrible mistake that cost me everything. But I have children who depend on me, and right now I can't even afford to take them to dinner." "Then get a job. Any job. McDonald's is hiring." "I've been trying. But word has gotten around about the circumstances of my firing. The HR investigation, the affair, the way it all became public. No one wants to hire someone with that kind of baggage. Consequences. I understand you're angry. I'm not angry, I'm indifferent. Your problems are not my problems. Julian pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of 2 young boys. These are my sons, Tyler and Mason. They're 8 and 10. They don't understand why Daddy can't live with them anymore, why Mommy cries all the time, why we had to sell their bikes to pay for groceries. You should have considered that before you risked everything for my wife. I know that, but punishing me doesn't help them. I studied his face, the desperation, the calculated vulnerability, the practiced manipulation of a man who'd built a career on charm and persuasion. Julian, what does Claire think about you being here? She doesn't know. This was my decision. Because she's moved on to my brother. Because she's confused and scared and making decisions based on survival instead of love. And you think if I help you get back on your feet, she'll choose you over John. Julian didn't answer, which was answer enough. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to leave my property and never come back. You're going to stop using your children as emotional blackmail, and you're going to figure out your own life without involving me or my family. Mr. Parish, 2 minutes are up. After Julian left, I called Rebecca to give her an update. He came to your house, she asked. That's either desperation or stupidity. Probably both. James, I need to tell you something. Julian's been calling me too. Multiple times a day, begging for reconciliation, promising he's learned his lesson. Are you considering it? Not for a second, but his persistence is becoming harassment. My lawyer's drafting a cease and desist letter. What's he saying? That Claire was a mistake, that he realizes I'm his true love, that he'll do anything to win back his family. Rebecca's voice carried exhaustion. He's rewriting history, pretending the affair was some kind of temporary insanity instead of 6 months of calculated deception. Classic cheater playbook. The interesting part is what he's not saying. He's not asking about the boys, not inquiring about their adjustment, not requesting additional visitation. His focus is entirely on undoing the financial consequences of his choices. He wants his comfortable life back. Exactly. Julian doesn't miss his family, he misses his lifestyle. That afternoon, I decided to drive past John's apartment complex. I wasn't sure what I expected to find, but curiosity got the better of me. What I saw was Claire loading boxes into her car, while John stood on the sidewalk gesturing angrily. I parked across the street and watched their domestic drama unfold. Claire was clearly moving out, while John was clearly trying to stop her. Their body language told the whole story. She was done, he was desperate, and their great romance was ending with the same drama that had started it. My phone rang. It was Claire. James, I need to ask a favor. I'm watching you load boxes into your car right now. She spun around, spotted my truck, and walked over. She looked tired, older somehow, like someone who'd been living on adrenaline and bad decisions for too long. Can we talk? We are talking. In private. I got out of my truck. Claire, what do you want? I'm leaving John. I can see that. The situation became unsustainable. Because he ran out of money? She flinched. Because we realized we wanted different things. You realized John couldn't provide the lifestyle you expected. That's not fair. Fair? I looked at the boxes in her car, then at John, who was pretending not to watch us, while clearly listening to every word. Claire, you left our 15-year marriage for Julian, left Julian for John, and now you're leaving John for what? Option number 4. I made mistakes. You made choices. There's a difference. James, I want to come home. The words hung in the air like smoke from an electrical fire. Behind us, John's face went white. Come home? to you, to the girls, to our family. We don't have a family anymore, you destroyed it. We could rebuild it. I've learned things about myself, about what really matters. The affairs, the drama, the chaos. None of it was worth losing what we had. I looked at this woman I'd been married to for 15 years, mother of my children, and felt nothing but pity. Claire, you don't want to come home. You want to undo the consequences of your choices. I want my family back. Your family moved on. Emma and Sophie are thriving without the constant tension. I'm building a business without worrying about my brother undermining me. We're happy, Claire, genuinely happy. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The words carried their own weight, steady and undeniable. I could see it land in her eyes, the shock of realizing that life hadn't paused in her absence, that the world she'd walked away from had kept moving without her permission. I could make you happier. She said it softly, almost hopefully, like an offer she truly believed was generous, like happiness was something she could still provide instead of something she'd repeatedly taken away. No, you couldn't, I said, because you'd still be the person who chose affairs over family, excitement over stability, fantasy over reality. Her face crumpled slightly at that, the way it does when someone hears a truth they've been avoiding. Not anger, not denial, just recognition. Claire's eyes filled with tears. I love you. The words used to mean everything. Now they meant almost nothing. No, you don't, I replied calmly. You love the security I represented. You love the idea of having a backup plan when your adventures don't work out. You love knowing there's somewhere safe to land after you jump. That's not true. Her voice wavered, thin and defensive, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. Prove it, I said. Get your own apartment, get a job, spend 6 months building an independent life without jumping into another relationship. Show me you can be happy with yourself before asking me to be happy with you. She stared at me, as if I'd just asked the impossible. 6 months? Minimum. Prove you've changed instead of just claiming you have. Anyone can say the right words when they're desperate. Claire's gaze drifted past me, back toward the moving truck, toward John, who was loading her remaining boxes with the mechanical, hollow movements of someone whose entire future had collapsed faster than his mind could process it. He didn't look angry. He didn't look heartbroken. He looked stunned. What about John? What about him? He gave up everything for me, she said quietly. His business, his family relationship, his future. He made his choice, I said. Now he gets to live with it, just like everyone else. Her shoulders sagged, the weight of consequences finally settling in places denial could no longer reach. James, please. I know I don't deserve another chance, but you're right, I said, cutting her off gently but firmly. You don't deserve another chance. There was no cruelty in it, just clarity. I got back in my truck and drove home, leaving Claire standing in the parking lot with her boxes and her regrets. That evening, Emma asked about my afternoon. I saw your mother today. How is she? Confused. About what? About the difference between wanting something and deserving something. Emma nodded, like that made perfect sense to her now. Sophie looked up from her homework. Is Mom coming back? No, sweetheart. Mom's figuring out how to live her new life. Good, Emma said firmly. We're better without the drama. There was no malice in her voice, just relief. Later that night, John called. Claire left me. I know. She wants to come back to you. I know that too. There was a long pause on the line, the sound of someone struggling to hold on to dignity after losing everything else. Are you going to take her back? No. Why not? You loved her once. I loved who I thought she was, I said. Turns out I was wrong about who that was. She's learned from her mistakes. John, Claire didn't make mistakes. She made calculated decisions to prioritize her desires over her family's needs. That's not a mistake. That's character. People can change. People can modify their behavior when consequences force them to, I replied. That's not the same as changing their character. Another silence. He already knew the answer before asking the next question. So what happens now? Now you all figure out how to live with the choices you made. What about the business? What about our relationship? The business is mine now. Our relationship ended when you decided my wife was more important than our family. James, John, I want you to understand something. Claire will find another option. She always does. Julian will eventually find work and rebuild his life. They'll both move on because they have to. What about me? You'll figure it out, or you won't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. I hung up and turned off my phone. The next morning brought news that would change everything again. Rebecca called with an update that made me smile for the first time in days. Julian's been arrested, she said. For what? Harassment and violation of the restraining order. Apparently he showed up at my workplace yesterday demanding to speak with me. Hospital security called the police. How long will he be held? Probably just overnight, but it goes on his record. And James, there's something else. The court's reviewing his child support arrangements based on new financial information. The money John was providing? Exactly. If Julian has access to third-party funding, his support obligations increase significantly. Even if that funding's dried up? The court doesn't care about the source's stability. They care about Julian's access to resources. After Rebecca hung up, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and thinking about consequences. Julian arrested, John broke and abandoned, Claire homeless and unemployed. The word soon had finally arrived for all of them, bringing exactly what they'd earned through their choices. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. I'm staying at a motel on Highway 9, room 237. Can we please talk about the girls? I texted back, call my lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. Then you can't afford custody visits. James, please, I just want to see my daughters. Get your life together first. I turned off my phone and went to make breakfast for Emma and Sophie. We had pancakes and bacon, talked about their school plans for the week, and laughed at Sophie's impression of her math teacher. It was a good morning in our house of 3. 3 weeks later, Claire made her final desperate play. I was working late at the Parish Electric office, reviewing contracts for our biggest job of the year, rewiring the new medical center downtown, when she appeared in my doorway like a ghost from a life I'd moved beyond. Hello, James. She looked different. Thinner, tired, wearing clothes I didn't recognize, probably borrowed or bought secondhand. The confident, ambitious woman who'd left our family for bigger dreams had been replaced by someone who looked like she'd been living in her car. Office is closed, Claire. I know. I waited until your staff left. How did you get in? I still have John's key. I set down my pen and really looked at her. What do you want? To explain everything. To tell you the truth about what really happened. I know what happened. You had affairs with 2 different men while planning to abandon your family. Pretty straightforward. Claire sat down across from my desk without being invited. It's more complicated than that. It always is with you. James, what if I told you the affairs weren't really about the other men? I'd say you're rewriting history to make yourself feel better. What if I told you they were about you? About us? I leaned back in my chair. Explain. I was trying to make you fight for me. The words hung in the air like a bad joke. I stared at her for 10 seconds before responding. You had affairs to make me fight for you. I was feeling invisible in our marriage. Like you took me for granted, assumed I'd always be there no matter how little attention you paid me. So you started sleeping with other men. I started getting attention from other men. The sleeping part, that was complicated. Complicated how? Claire shifted in her chair. Julian pursued me aggressively, made me feel desired, appreciated, seen. I thought if you noticed another man wanting me, you'd remember why you married me. Instead, I divorced you. You were supposed to fight for me, confront Julian, demand I choose, show me how much our marriage meant to you. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the town was settling into evening routines, families having dinner, kids doing homework, normal people living normal lives without the drama Claire seemed to require. Claire, let me understand your logic. You thought having an affair would improve our marriage. I thought it would wake you up. It did wake me up. It woke me up to the fact that I was married to someone who would betray her family to get attention. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. I turned back to face her. What about John? Was sleeping with my brother also designed to make me fight for you? Claire's face flushed. John was a mistake. A mistake that lasted 6 months. I was hurt and angry after Julian lost his job. I needed someone who understood what I was going through. You needed someone to pay your bills. That's cruel. It's accurate. Julian couldn't support you anymore, so you moved on to my brother. When his money ran out, you tried to come back to me. That's not love, Claire. That's survival. Claire stood up and moved closer to my desk. James, I know I made terrible choices, but underneath all the mistakes and poor decisions, I still love you. I still love our family. Our family moved on. The girls need their mother. The girls need stability. They have that now. I can provide stability. From a motel room, with no job and no income, I'm working on getting back on my feet. How? Claire hesitated. I've been talking to Julian about reconciling. I sat back down slowly. Julian, the man who got you fired from your job, lost his own job, got divorced, and was recently arrested for harassment. He's learned from his mistakes, just like you've learned from yours. We've both grown from this experience. Claire, Julian's living with his mother and can't afford child support. What exactly are you reconciling to? We're going to start fresh, maybe move to Portland, find new opportunities. With what money? We'll figure it out. I pulled out my phone and showed her a news article I'd bookmarked. Julian was arrested again yesterday. Apparently he's been harassing Rebecca's co-workers, trying to get information about her finances. Claire's face went white. That's not possible. It's public record. He's facing stalking charges now. Julian wouldn't. He's not that kind of person. He's exactly that kind of person. He's a man who destroyed his life for an affair and now can't accept the consequences. Claire sank back into her chair. I don't understand. He told me he was getting his life together, that he had job prospects. He lied. Just like he lied to his wife, just like he lied to you during the affair. But we had plans. You had fantasies. There's a difference. I watched Claire process this information, her face cycling through confusion, denial, and finally resignation. The last pillar of her post-divorce life was crumbling in real time. What about John? She asked quietly. What about him? How is he doing? John's working construction for a contractor in Portland. Makes about a third of what he used to make, lives in a studio apartment, drives a 15-year-old truck. Is he happy? He's surviving, barely. Claire put her head in her hands. I've destroyed everything. Yes, you have. James, please. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm begging you, let me come home. Let me try to fix what I broke. You can't fix this, Claire. Why not? Because you haven't changed. You're still the person who thinks affairs are acceptable relationship strategies. You're still someone who abandons her children when life gets complicated. You're still someone who lies to herself about her motivations. I can change. Prove it. Build an independent life. Get therapy. Develop some self-awareness about why you make the choices you make. I can't afford therapy. Then get a job and save up for it. What kind of job can I get? My reputation in this town is destroyed. That's what happens when you have public affairs with married men. Claire looked up at me with desperate eyes. James, I'm staying in a motel room that costs $40 a night. I have $300 left to my name. My car needs repairs I can't afford. I haven't spoken to my parents since they found out about John. I have nowhere to go. You should have considered that before you started the affairs. I need help. You need to help yourself. I can't do this alone. You chose to be alone when you chose affairs over family. Claire stood up abruptly. Fine. If you won't help me, I'll figure something else out. Like what? Maybe I'll write a book about this whole experience. Sell my story to one of those women's magazines. Turn my mistakes into income. I laughed. Claire, who's going to buy a story about a woman who destroyed her family for 2 failed affairs? People love redemption stories. This isn't a redemption story. This is a cautionary tale. You don't know how this story ends. I know how it ends for me and the girls. We're happy, stable, and moving forward without you. Claire headed for the door, then turned back. James, what if I told you I was pregnant? The question hit like a physical blow. Are you? What if I was? Whose baby would it be? Claire's silence answered the question. You don't know. I'd need paternity tests to be certain. Get them, then tell the father. It's not my problem. It could be your baby. When's the last time we were intimate, Claire? She thought for a moment. 8 months ago, maybe 9. Then it's not mine. But what if? There's no what if. You left our marriage months before you physically left our house. Whatever consequences you're dealing with now are between you and the men you chose over your family. Claire stared at me for a long moment. You've become cruel. I've become honest. The James I married would have helped me, even after everything I did. The James you married was naive enough to believe his wife would honor her marriage vows. That James learned better. After Claire left, I sat alone in my office thinking about the conversation. She wasn't pregnant. That had been a desperate manipulation tactic, the kind of lie she'd probably tell Julian and John too, hoping one of them would step up to rescue her. My phone rang. It was Rebecca. James, I have news. Julian's been sentenced to 6 months in county jail for violating the restraining order. Good. There's more. During his sentencing, he apparently had a complete breakdown in court. Started ranting about how his life was destroyed by vindictive women who couldn't appreciate his love. Sounds about right. The judge wasn't impressed. Julian's also been ordered to undergo psychiatric evaluation and anger management counseling. What about child support? Suspended while he's incarcerated. I'll probably never see a dime of what he owes, but honestly, I don't want his money anymore. I just want him out of our lives. How are your boys handling everything? Better than expected. They've stopped asking when Daddy's coming home and started talking about what they want to be when they grow up. Kids are resilient when they feel safe. After hanging up with Rebecca, I drove home to find Emma and Sophie doing homework at the kitchen table. They looked up when I walked in, and I was struck by how peaceful our house felt. No tension, no walking on eggshells, no wondering what crisis would erupt next. How was work, Dad? Sophie asked. Interesting. Your mother stopped by the office. Both girls looked up with sharp attention. Is she coming back? Emma asked. No, she's still figuring out her life. Good, Sophie said firmly. We're better without the drama. Emma nodded. Dad, can I ask you something? Always. Do you miss being married? I considered the question carefully. I miss being married to the person I thought your mother was, but I don't miss the person she actually turned out to be. That makes sense, Emma said. Sometimes people aren't who we think they are. Very wise, sweetheart. Later that evening, after the girls were asleep, I sat on my back porch with a beer and thought about Claire's visit. Her desperation had been palpable, but so had her continued refusal to accept responsibility for her choices. Even facing complete ruin, she was still looking for someone else to rescue her from the consequences of her actions. My phone buzzed with a text from John. "Heard Claire came to see you? Are you taking her back?" I typed back, "No. She's in bad shape, James, really bad. Not my problem. She's family, the mother of your children." She was family. She chose to change that. What's she supposed to do? Figure it out, like the rest of us had to do when she destroyed our lives for her affairs. John didn't respond. The next morning brought news that would close this chapter permanently. My lawyer called with an update about the custody arrangements. I could tell from his tone that this wasn't just procedural. He didn't waste time with pleasantries, didn't soften his words. He spoke the way people do when something decisive has already happened. "Claire missed her court-mandated supervised visitation yesterday," he said. "Third time in 2 months." I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. Even after everything, part of me had hoped she'd show up. Not for me, but for them. Where was she? According to the court officer, she left town, apparently drove to Portland looking for Julian, not realizing he was in jail. The irony landed hard. She'd chased the illusion so far she'd outrun reality entirely. What does this mean for custody? It means she's voluntarily forfeited her parental rights through abandonment. If she doesn't respond to the court's notice within 30 days, you'll have sole custody with no visitation requirements. The words were clinical, legal, final. She abandoned them again. Legally and practically, yes. I sat there after the call ended, phone still in my hand, staring at nothing. There was no anger left, just a dull ache where hope used to live. The hope that no matter how broken things became, she'd still choose her children when it mattered most. That afternoon, I sat Emma and Sophie down for a conversation I'd hoped we'd never need to have. I chose the kitchen table. Neutral ground, daylight, no distractions. They knew something was coming the moment they saw my face. "Girls, your mother left town yesterday. She won't be coming back." Emma nodded almost immediately, like she'd been bracing for this outcome for months. Sophie's shoulders slumped. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. "Where did she go?" Sophie asked. "To look for Julian. She didn't know he was in jail." There was a pause while they processed that. "Is she coming back when she finds out?" I swallowed. "I don't think so, sweetheart. I think your mother has decided that her other relationships are more important than her relationship with you." "That's stupid," Emma said angrily. "We're her daughters." "Yes, you are. And that makes her choice even more difficult to understand." Emma pushed her chair back slightly, arms crossed, jaw tight. Sophie stared at the table, tracing the wood grain with her finger. "Dad," Sophie said quietly, "are we going to be okay?" The question cut through everything. We're going to be better than okay. We're going to be happy. Without Mom? Your mother will always be your mother, no matter where she is or what choices she makes, I said carefully. But yes, we're going to be happy without the chaos and drama. I'm glad, Emma said after a moment. I was tired of never knowing what crisis would happen next. That honesty told me more than any therapist ever could. That evening, we ordered pizza and watched a movie together. No phones, no tension, no waiting for a door to slam or a fight to erupt. It was a perfectly normal family night, the kind we'd rarely had when Claire was creating constant turmoil. Laughter came easily. The girls argued over toppings. Sophie fell asleep halfway through the movie with her head on my shoulder. As I tucked Sophie into bed, she asked one final question. Dad, do you think Mom will ever figure out how to be happy? I brushed her hair back gently. I hope so, sweetheart, but that's something she has to do for herself. I hope she does too, she said softly. Then, after a pause, but I'm glad we don't have to wait for her to figure it out. The next morning, I received a text from an unknown number. "This is Claire. I'm in Portland. Julian and I are going to work things out when he gets released. Don't try to contact me." I stared at the screen for a long moment, then showed the text to Emma and Sophie over breakfast. "Is she serious?" Emma asked. "Apparently. She's going to wait for a man who's in jail for stalking his ex-wife?" "That's her choice." Sophie shook her head. "Mom makes really bad choices." "Yes, she does." "Are we going to make better choices?" "We already are, sweetheart. Every day." I deleted Claire's text and blocked the number. Then I called my lawyer and told him to proceed with the sole custody paperwork. The word soon had finally arrived for everyone involved, bringing exactly what each person had earned through their choices. For Claire, Julian, and John, soon meant consequences, isolation, and the collapse of their fantasy relationships. For Emma, Sophie, and me, soon meant peace, stability, and the chance to build something real from the wreckage of what we'd lost. Sometimes the circuit breaker that shuts down the power is exactly what you need to rewire your life correctly. We were better in the dark than we'd ever been in their artificial light.